Welcome to the Using ArcGIS to Support Critical Agriculture Workflows, Solutions for State and Local Agencies webinar. This is the third webinar in our Environmental and Natural Resources webinar series. I'm Megan Martinez, an Industry Marketing Specialist here at Esri in Redlands, and I will be your moderator today. I'd now like to introduce our two presenters. We have Mike Bialish, a National Account Manager on the state government team here at Esri. He's based out of our Philadelphia office. And joining Mike is Matt Taraldson, a National Solutions Engineer on the state government team, and he's based out of Minneapolis. So now I'll hand it over to Mike.
Okay, thank you, Megan. And thank you everyone for participating today. We really appreciate this opportunity to discuss with you GIS in support of critical agriculture workflows. A little bit more background about Matt and I, if you weren't on previous webinars. We're a team that works with environment, natural resources agencies in all 50 states. And this, of course, includes agriculture departments. And much of what we're going to share with you today comes from that experience. So as Megan mentioned, this is actually the third in a series of webinars. I get my PowerPoint moving here. There we go. So in the first webinar, we started by looking at broader trends that we're seeing across all of the environment and natural resource agencies. So things like streamlining field operations, more effective monitoring of field and real-time information, enhancing constituent engagement and citizen science, documenting ROI, and so on. The subsequent webinars, including today's, are focused on more specifics relative to particular agency types and the key workflows that we see within those agencies. However, everything that we're going to talk about relates back to the context and trends that we discussed in that first webinar. The link at the bottom, which we'll also send following today, has recordings of the first two webinars that we did, and we'll also have a recording of today's and upcoming ones. Additionally, we really welcome your feedback. And as I mentioned last time, this resulted in us changing the topic for the next webinar, which will now focus on environmental impact assessment and permitting. So as far as today, here it goes. Here are the topics we're going to cover. We'll start out by discussing some of the major challenges and workflows that we've seen within agriculture departments, especially those where GIS has the potential to play a major role. Then, as we did in other webinars, we'll discuss the common patterns of use of the ArcGIS platform and how they relate to these major challenges and workflows. This will then be followed by a quick overview of ArcGIS solutions, especially those that are particular to agriculture, including a deeper dive into some of the key workflows, namely pest monitoring, as well as the protection of water quality through best management practice programs. And those will actually include demonstrations from Matt. We'll leave about 10 minutes or so for questions at the end, and as a reminder, please enter your questions in the webinar chat box as we go along. Okay, so starting out with the key agriculture challenges and workflows. The list that you see here is certainly not a complete list, rather some of the challenges that we see in most agriculture departments and ones where GIS is playing a variety of critical roles or has the potential to, like I said earlier. So starting with invasive pest monitoring, departments are especially challenged with not only conducting literally hundreds of surveys annually, but also conducting early detection activities for incoming pests and responding, often jointly with other organizations, when a pest is detected. We've seen this being addressed with a wide variety of technologies, everything from paper all the way through GIS technology, which makes it very challenging to monitor all the information in one place and report on it. Also, so much time is spent with data collection and transformation that often the overall analysis, especially looking at trends, suffers. We see very similar challenges with other workflows like BMP or best management practice, BMP programs for nutrient management and water quality protection, as well as things like facility inspections, especially when you include all the weights and measures work that's done with agriculture departments. In addition, departments are challenged with management and promotion of various programs, things like food and nutrition wellness, and being able to convey this along with the status and effectiveness of the other programs and workflows I mentioned to partners, federal agencies, and the public. Of course, like I said, there's many more workflows and challenges in this, but these are some of the ones that we see in just about every agency that we work with and ones where GIS is becoming critical to supporting them and reaching overall agency goals. Whichever of these, though, that you look at, the drivers and goals behind them can really be boiled down into things like enhanced decision making, so using the right information in a timely manner to make better decisions, and whether that be for things like response to pest detection, tweaking BMP policies, or allocating resources for priority inspections. For internal staffs, it's often about streamlining field operations, so getting away from those paper-based processes that I mentioned earlier, and readily connecting to and updating systems of record. And then, of course, coupled with that, increasing overall operational awareness by leveraging authoritative information, whether you're in the field, in the office, and throughout entire organizations, right up through the executive staffs in those departments. And of course, it's about the constituents in the community and increasing awareness and services to them, but also using them as a resource as well for data collection and feedback, and also making sure their voices are heard on agricultural issues. GIS and location, of course, continues to support all of these challenges, and I think we have some really great examples to show you today that'll illustrate this. For those of you that have attended previous webinars, the trends we discussed there completely relate to the challenges that we're highlighting here. So again, everything's kind of connected to that context that we set in that first webinar. All right, so going back to the previous webinars, another aspect that we covered are the common patterns in which we see the ArcGIS platform being utilized, and this being a framework for implementation and really being used to achieve, maximum benefit of leveraging ArcGIS. And so, I'll get my slide moving here. Whoops, there we go. Okay, so this common patterns of use certainly applies to agriculture department implementations, and what you're seeing here on the screen are 9 common patterns of use that provide that framework. So these are effectively business patterns of implementation and range from data management and visualization to field mobility and monitoring to, of course, the analytical side and design and decision support, all the way through engaging constituents and sharing and collaboration. These are not only, of course, the core benefits that the platform offers, but they provide a framework to really assess business challenges and priorities, which inherently helps to define the appropriate technology solutions to address them. This has really become an effective tool in helping departments, especially when establishing short and long-term vision, assessments of business value, and then delivering on that. So we see, we work with, like I said, many agriculture departments, and we see them either setting up new implementations or taking a step back and looking at current implementations with this framework or context. And we've worked with agencies generally with this approach, but also specific to workflows, so ranging from things like pest monitoring to even facilities inspections. So as we get into the deeper dive portion of the webinar, we'll identify these patterns of use relative to the implementations that we'll be illustrating. Okay, so now that I discussed some of the main workflows and patterns of use, I'm going to talk a minute about ArcGIS solutions, which are readily available to you and address aspects of the workflows that I just discussed and leverage the patterns of use that I just discussed in terms of how they are implemented. There we go. So solutions themselves are configurations of platform components around core business processes and workflows. So effectively, they utilize the COTS and configurable maps and apps that are part of the platform and are simple to deploy and are actually supported just like our software is. These are actually developed in partnership with organizations to define core business process requirements and implement the platform, the pieces of the platform, to meet various needs. We work to orient the solution efforts on workflows that are repeatable, so meaning with the example of agriculture that they'll have utility in whatever state that you're working in across the country. What else is beneficial is that even though these are listed under buckets like you see on the screen, agriculture, fish and wildlife, natural resources, they're actually very configurable and extensible so they can be utilized across other environmental agencies who have similar challenges. So a great example of that would be the citizen science-oriented solutions under natural resources, which can pretty easily be utilized within agriculture departments who have similar challenges and at really all levels of government as well. As mentioned, they're easily deployable. In fact, you can deploy these directly to ArcGIS Online or Enterprise right from within ArcGIS Pro, and then configure them at the same time to meet your own specific needs. As you can see, the solution configurations align with many of the workflows and patterns I discussed, and Matt will show you a few of these here in a minute. Additionally, we'll continue to cover these in more detail in future webinars, and there's a wealth of information from their home website, which you can see on the screen, solutions.arcgis.com. Okay, so now that we've set all this context, let's take a deeper dive into some of the key challenges in agriculture. So as I mentioned earlier, my PowerPoint. Okay, so as I mentioned earlier, invasive pest monitoring is a very critical challenge, and there are many ways that GIS can support these efforts. So looking at this, in every state there are pest monitoring programs, whether they be through the Cooperative Agricultural Pest Survey or CAPS, Farm Bill, or even state-specific programs. And what we've generally found is that paper and spreadsheet-based processes are being used, as well as a wide variety of other technologies that are being utilized. And as I mentioned earlier, a great deal of time is spent transforming this information into databases, which often includes GIS, in order to be used to track progress and make decisions. In addition, it's required that the data be reported to the NAPAS database annually or when a critical pest is found. So overall, the processes involve things like setting up new monitoring sites, conducting routine or early detection site inspections, tracking the progress of inspection activities, monitoring the results of surveys for various key performance indicators, or conducting an assessment when a critical pest is found. So based on this, we developed configurable solutions based on evaluating requirements, and in doing this, we partnered with the Florida Department of Agriculture and Consumer Services. The solutions were also vetted by other states, and several have now implemented parts or complete sets of the solutions. And as Matt will demonstrate here in a minute, the solutions are wrapped around various key elements of the workflows, so including field surveys, program monitoring and reporting, as well as incident response when pests are detected. The solutions truly implement the majority of the common patterns that I mentioned earlier, and you can see those across the bottom. And they also work as a set of collaboration tools for all the stakeholders that are involved with these processes. So as a result, this is a preview of what the solutions look like. As I mentioned, they're based on standard workflows, but they're configurable, of course, to meet your own specific needs and can really be used for any invasive species monitoring. They include apps to support field surveys, dashboards to support monitoring, integrations in ArcGIS Pro to support reporting, and web mapping applications to support situational awareness if a pest is found or detected. The solutions all work together to support this entire workflow. And so with that, I'm now going to turn it over to Matt to demo them for you. And so Matt, go ahead and take it away.
Okay, everybody. Hello, my name's Matt, and Mike already gave me a nice introduction. And I wanted to start today by talking a little bit about arcgis.com/solutions, and so, or rather, solutions.arcgis.com. And Mike laid out a lot of how these solutions are used, and I wanted to reiterate that we've developed these solutions with the idea that they will cover all aspects of a field mobility workflow. That includes the inspections, that includes documenting, dashboarding, and also reporting. But it all starts with how you actually deploy those solutions into your own infrastructure. And so it starts on this ArcGIS Solutions webpage. You can go down and we have local government and then state government solutions. You can click here on agriculture. It will pull up, and here are our monitor invasive pests, so through the CAPS program, and protect water quality or BMP solutions. And so you can go here, you can click learn more, you can get more information. But if you actually want to install them, you can either go here, you can learn more, or you can go through ArcGIS Pro. And I'm going to pull up Pro for just a second here. And if I go here in ArcGIS Pro across the top, you see the share button. I click share, and I have what's called the ArcGIS Solution Deployment Tool that I have downloaded. And so I can go into here, I can search for what I'm looking for. In this case, I'm looking for agriculture. And you can see here, I have the invasive pest status reports. Everything is right here. I simply just select them. I go down here, and since I'm already signed into my ArcGIS Online account, I can choose the folder that I want to store them in, and I click deploy. And then the tool will go ahead and create feature layers, web maps. It will deploy a pro package where you can go through and actually report information, and you simply just click that deployment button, it builds everything, and then it's up to you to kind of go through and configure everything the way you see fit. So there's 2 ways to deploy. The easiest one by far is through the solution deployment tool, and that's how you physically get this information into your organization. So starting now with the demonstration of the agriculture, the invasive pests solutions, I'll first start with the first rung, which was field mobility. And so like I said, we have pieces that we've developed that cover the entire workflow. And the goal was to try to optimize how everyone within an agricultural organization works together, and also information is easily shared. So here you see invasive pest survey. I have new site, and I also have a pest site visit. The way that these Survey 123 solutions are deployed is that we have one site where someone can establish a site visit, and then we have another one where someone can come in, and once you have that site established, you can go in and simply add in another inspection of that site. And it uses related tables so that you can create that first metadata for the site, and then once you have that, you can simply just add in attributes to that site from there. So I'll click on this new site collection, and I'll go ahead and collect, and it will pull up the Survey 123 document. And so everything that you see here is available to be configured. And so you can go through here, you have drop downs, and so this is just how it comes out in its raw format. I haven't gone through and I haven't really edited much of anything, but I wanted to give the idea of the depths of what's available here. So for me, I'll do the unspecified other. You can go through, and everything in here can be changed, can be altered. The items that have the asterisk are ones that are required, and so in this particular case, I'm going to do a pine survey, and then once you select your survey, it will give you a smaller list of what type of species are in here. And this species is dynamic. The species list is dynamic. It can be curated by Esri. Every year we go through and we update all the common caps hosts from the database. You can put that in there, or you can build your own. So in this particular case, I'm going to grab pine, and then once you grab your specific species, you then get a smaller list on dropdown of only pests that will correlate to that specific species. So the idea is that someone who's out in the fields, if they're doing, in this case, a pine survey or a corn survey, they're only going to see the species targets that relate to that original crop or site host that you have selected. So again, these are all customizable. You can go through, you can select what you want to do. And then when you actually create the site details, I'm going to create tests. I already have a couple in my database, so I'll create test 4. I can go through here. In this particular case, Mike and I are actually in Portland, Oregon, or Portland, Maine right now at the Esri office. So I'm going to go through and I'm going to pick an urban area for this inspection. And again, like I said, there's a lot of options in here. You can kind of pick as you see fit, depending on what you like. We'll just grab one of these. So we'll do a shopping mall. And so is the site currently active? You can give acres, the location name, and again, I'm going to name this one test 04. And then you go through here, you select the state, Maine, and then the county is required. In this particular case, it gives you the drop down based on the state you select, and we're in Cumberland County. So once you have all that established, that will create the metadata, and then you actually pick your geopoint, and you enter in the information. Now, at the end of this survey, you can see here, do I want to log an inspection at this time? Right now, I have it selected at no, but if I select yes, it will then give me that related table attribute information, and I can go through and actually log the information. So you can see here, you actually give information about who your surveyors are. In this particular case, I have it set up so that automatically populates the current date and the current time. And I can go through and I can grab the information, and then more importantly, did you find your targeted species? And so if you click yes, you can click no, it will generate different attributes on the back end. So if I don't want to take anything right now, if I just want to select that new site, I can click no, and I can go here and I can click submit, and I will send now. Now what will happen is that this test 04 is going to sit in my outbox in Survey 123, and so now I can go back and I can do my site visit survey, and I have this inbox. I can refresh it, and I should have a test 04 sitting within here that I can then take, and I can give more information to that, again, that one site. And so it's designed so that you can have surveyors who are out, here we go, test 04 is right here. They're out taking information. You can establish the site, and you only have to establish that site once. Once that site is established, you simply go through, you do surveys against that site that already exists, and it creates more information in a different table. And so you can, then build a map based on those sites. You can look at the different related tables and build maps based off of there and do analysis based off of those tables. So the idea is that, again, you're making this efficient. You're making it so that someone only has to go out and collect information about the physical site once, and until that information is no longer valid or changes, you don't have to worry about it. You just do your inspection and away you go. Now, since everything is existing in ArcGIS Online or portal for ArcGIS, everything is interconnected. And so the other part of the puzzle is not just collecting information in the field, it's about taking that information and being able to rapidly and efficiently execute against the information you have. So in this particular case, this is a web application that is developed. And you see these are our dummy points. This is, again, for just test purposes only. But this is an application we put together using dummy data from the state of Maryland. And in here you have all these different points. You can click on the information and get, see who's been surveying and who's been doing what. But the idea of this application is that I can take a point, and if I get, say, a public report of an invasive species, or if someone in the field actually reports a point, I can put a point on the map. I can draw a buffer of, say, 6 miles. And it will draw the 6 miles, and it will start to collect information about that site. So in this particular case, if someone reported a pest that I would need to monitor or tell other people about, I can go in here, and so I can see someone reported something. I have 2 monitoring sites close by. I should probably go in and check those. I have crops nearby, and everything in here is populated so that through ArcGIS. And so depending on what you have, in this particular case, I have 1 hospital. What you can do is populate things in here. So if you have things like nurseries, people, partners you have to report to, you have to bring into the loop, you can see all this information is right here. I can click the information and I can report. So if something comes in, you can drop a point on the map, and that point can either be dropped through this web application or it can be reported from the field. And then once you have that piece of information, that will automatically come in. You can then execute against it, and you can immediately tell if there's nurseries or other partners nearby that you would have to contact and to try to contain the situation, or also monitoring sites. So if you're curious about how widespread something is, or you want to verify a public report, you can go check a nearby monitoring site and actually vet that report with your authoritative content and your expert staff. So that's one way that you can bring everything in, and the takeaway of this was that it was supposed to be rapid. As soon as that information comes in, you have it. You don't have to worry about getting paper information from the field or digitizing it. As soon as that update is committed or you put the point on the map, away you go. The other side is more of a holistic view about how a program is doing. And so this was a dashboard that was designed more for, say, an executive or someone who is really interested about seeing what the holistic view of the CAPS program in the state is. And so you can go up here, you can select the pests, and so if you select suspected, you're only going to get the 2 on the map here. You can filter it down, and so you can see I have 3 in the whole state. I have 2 in my view. I can click the information and grab that. And so it's designed for someone, and if you have an executive who asks for a GIS report or wants to see some simple maps, but doesn't want to open up ArcMap or ArcGIS Pro and go through the whole process of building that map, this is a very simple way to do that. And there's different ways you can go through. And so in here, I'll grab the silver-eye moth. I can just click that information, and then you can see here's all the sites within the state that we have. There's 34 of them. If I want to grab a specific one, I can click the information. It will highlight it on the map. But then on the bottom, again, we've done 562 surveys for silver-eye moth over the year. You can see by every month we have that, and you can go through and you can actually look at the comparison. And so if you have, certain parameters you're working for that you want to do, say, in this case, 124 surveys in the next month, you can gauge to see how fast your people are working. Are you on target? Are you off target? And of course, get the holistic spatial view. You can see where reports are coming in. And so in this particular case, we don't have any pests that show up on the map. But if you have pests and they're showing up in certain parts of the state, you can kind of monitor and see if they're spreading and kind of keep an eye on those types of things. So again, this is all designed to work together. This is all seamless. As soon as that information is in either ArcGIS Online or Portal for ArcGIS, it's available to all these applications. Desktop GIS works in tandem with it and also puts everything together. And the last part I'm going to talk about with CAPS is one that I've heard over and over again is a very sore subject for people, and that's actually going in and creating a report to the NAPIS database. And so when I deployed the solution, I deployed a ArcGIS Pro package, and in this package comes a set of tasks. And if you aren't familiar with ArcGIS Pro, tasks are easy, kind of bite-sized, step-by-step geoprocessing tasks that people can go through and carry out. And so in this particular one, we have export surveys for NAPIS reporting. And so what's also going on is when people are out collecting information and you say you click that silver Y moth, it will automatically put the NAPIS code in for that pest. And so the pest you're looking for, the species, all of that is captured in a NAPIS friendly method that's kind of behind the scenes, and then you simply run this task. And so I'm not going to run the whole task because frankly it's not a very compelling demo, but what will end up happening is that it will take your attribute table, it will parse apart the easy to read text formats and take out the items that are only for the NAPIS database, and then you simply have a document that you upload to the NAPIS database that's already formatted in the way you want. So again, this was meant to kind of take it from field inspections all the way to when you end up reporting it to the final database. This workflow was meant to carry out all of those things and meant to optimize all those pieces. And so again, trying to take the onus off the user who has to format sometimes, kind of messy GIS data and then report it to the NAPIS database, all the way starting with those workers who are out in the field who can rapidly report that information without having to go through and digitize any paper or digitize any forms. So that's an overview of the CAPS workflow. Now I'm going to turn it back over to Mike, who's going to go over the BMPs, or best management practices, side of the solutions deployment.
All right, thanks, Matt. All right, so like Matt said, we're going to switch gears a little bit now and take a look at one of the other common workflows and challenges that I mentioned earlier related to water quality protection and nutrient management through best management practices, or BMP implementations. This is a very common workflow, again, that we see across agriculture departments, and one where we've made solutions available, which again are those configurations of maps and apps to support how states are implementing BMPs to protect water resources. BMPs, of course, target related policies and strategies, and as part of this, program administrators track the enrollment in these programs, along with verification or inspection of how the individual practices are being implemented, and ensuring that they're being implemented as intended. There are often various funding streams tied to this, and reporting program effectiveness related to these streams is pretty important. In order to support this, we have developed solutions to support field processes of enrolling land managers and agricultural producers in BMP programs, as well as verifying the implementation of the BMPs, like I mentioned a minute ago. Coupled with this are decision support tools to understand enrollments overall, as well as the verification of the actual implementation of the BMPs, which of course leads to the overall effectiveness and assessing the overall effectiveness of the programs. Additionally, the solutions include tools allowing for the internal and external reporting of program status in a variety of ways. And collectively, this supports several patterns of use, like I talked about earlier, related to these programs, and which are shown across the bottom of the slide, and addresses the majority of the workflow through a configurable type approach. As a result, this is a preview of what the solutions look like again. Like the pest monitoring solutions, they're based pretty standard workflows, but they're configurable to your own specific needs and can be used for a variety of BMP programs. The solutions include apps to support field enrollments and surveys, dashboards to support monitoring and assessment and reporting of program effectiveness, as well as conveying information about the programs to the public. So again, you can see how a great deal of the overall workflow is being addressed. And so with that, I'm now going to turn it back over to Matt to demo them for you. And Matt, go ahead and take it away.
Thanks, Mike. So just as I kind of showed with the CAP solutions, the BMP solutions are, again, meant to follow the holistic mindset, or the holistic workflow, rather. And so I'm going to start again with survey 123. I'm going to close my site visit that I had last time. I'm going to go back to my surveys, and you can see here I have BMP enrollment forms and BMP verification survey. And so again, with what I did with CAPS, we have two separate survey 123 surveys that have been deployed. One will be when you first go to enroll a site, and you click on this one and you actually collect the information about a given site. In this case, you gave operation name, number, you give location, county, parcel number, acreage, and then, fill in the basic things about will this be involved in different nutrient management, irrigation management, those types of things. Everything you see here, again, is configurable. If you want to change something, go ahead and do it. You can configure how the drop-downs and everything look. And in this particular case, there's quite a few required fields. And so this one is a lot shorter than the CAPS one, but again, it's meant to just kind of establish that first site. And once you have a site established, you go in and you use the second form. And the second form is how you actually verify your survey is. And so again, you can collect or you can use the inbox. In this particular one, I don't have an inbox, so I can't pull an existing survey, but I can click collect, and I get a shorter form that I can actually verify that that site that I have originally entered in is actually complying with the BMP verification. So you can see here, again, we're in Portland, Maine. It calculates that automatically along with the time and the date. And so these are just a simple yes or no questions. As long as you're using the Outbacks format, information at the top will already be pre-filled in about the site information, the landholder information, everything that's already been entered in that metadata. And so someone who's in the field can simply do their verification survey. They simply say yes or no, they click the buttons, they go to submit, and away you go. So that's the BMP verification form is a very straightforward one, but like I said, it's meant to be in two parts. One where you actually establish the site, and one where you actually go through and you verify in survey 1, 2, 3. And both of these forms can be done in the field without any sort of cell connection. What will happen is you can't commit the data to the database until you're back into Wi-Fi or cell reception range, but as soon as you commit those databases, they'll again be instantly available through the portal to view. So likewise, once you have that information in, the full BMP solution comes with 2 web application apps that I have deployed here. So this first one is, again, a more holistic view, just like with CAPS, about the overall enrollment status. And this is one that's meant to be more internal and meant to keep track of what's going on in the field and just kind of see a holistic view of what's going on with the program. So again, as I built my schema when I originally deployed the survey, I have certain commodities that you'll be looking for. This particular one, collar calf. If I select that, you can see I now have 17 that are enrolled, 8 of which are out of date. 82% are in the implementation guidelines, and also a holistic calculation of the acres and agriculture acres here. And so all of this on the right side is being driven by the attribute table information. It's actually doing a query against the attribute table or related table information. And so as new information comes in, all of those calculations will dynamically change. If I really want to, I can go in and I can grab satisfactory, or I can grab unsatisfactory, and I can further drive the filter down. And so in this particular one, you can see I have no cow-calf operations that are all that are not satisfactory. But again, it gives the person who is not that traditional GIS super user the capability. You can simply just go to this website, you see the most up-to-date information, you can create the map and the report that you simply want to see, and then away you go. And so this is a very powerful internal tool rather, to get your message across. Along with the internal use, there's also a management practice dashboard that we put together that's more of a public-facing one. And so if you want to tell the story about how BMPs are making a difference and how many acres are being enrolled and being monitored, this is a good one for that. And so again, this is exactly how it looks when you deploy it from the solutions webpage. I haven't done much to change it. And so you go through up here, you have irrigation management, you can click information, you can click by certain watersheds, and it will give you all the information about what's going on here. Or if you want to go over here and if you want to take a look at one. So I'm going to go over here and look at the Lower Potomac. It will automatically adjust the widgets around here to build these calculations. And again, these are up to date. As soon as information is committed to the database, these calculations will automatically change and will be reflected in this dashboard. So the BMP workflow is meant to cover the whole gambit, starting from when you're verifying a property, when you're going in and you're going to verify that it's in compliance. And once you have that information, how are you going to tell that story and monitor things internally? And then finally, how are you going to tell the BMP story externally? And the common thread to that is WebGIS. All that information is strung together, starting with the field worker through a portal or through ArcGIS Online. And as new information comes in, it's automatically updated and reflected here. So those were kind of a quick overview of the two solutions that we have in this space, both CAPS and BMPs. And so I wanted to remind everyone that this is webinar number 3 of 4. We are constantly seeking feedback for these and everything like that. The first two are already available online. This will be available in about a week. And our next one is on January 17th, 2019, which will again be recorded and placed online. So with that, I am happy now to take questions. Mike and I are both here. And so here's our contact information if you want to get a hold of us offline. But in the meantime, we're happy to take questions here.
Okay, thanks, Matt. So we've received quite a few questions. Before I start, I just wanted to remind you all that a short survey will pop up on your screen right after the webinar ends. And we would greatly appreciate your feedback, and we'll use your suggestions when designing future webinars. So if you can take a moment and fill that out, we'd greatly appreciate it. And now we'll get to as many questions as time permits. The first one here says, can the location be configured to automatically populate owner, address, etc. from tax parcel data on our other services?
Okay, so yeah, that's a good question, and I think what we're talking about there is, leveraging existing data to fill in values as you go into survey 1, 2, 3. At least I think that's how I'm interpreting the question, and the answer is yes, that is possible through a capability called pull data. And so with pull data, you're basically leveraging generally a CSV. I think CSV is the only format right now. So you basically have a CSV of values or table that you have on your device, and it'll actually pull data from that CSV as appropriate when you're going into your survey forms. It is on the backlog as far as our product backlog to do this directly from services, but web services, but that's not available right now. Matt, did you want to have something you want to add to that?
Yeah, one thing that I know a lot of people have talked to me about, and I hear quite a bit, is that it's only as good as the parcel information that you put into it. And so that question's a little bit in the gray area because that assumes that you have parcel information in a format or of fidelity that would be useful to the workflow. And if you do have that, yes, you can do that. But you have to make sure that you have a good extent of parcels, and the parcels are where they actually are, because you don't want to, when you're on the field and you're using GPS, if those lines are not to the fidelity that you need, you can sort of end up getting in the wrong parcel or something like that. So I'd caution against that. But yes, if you have the information, like Mike said, you can go ahead and do that.
Okay, thanks, Matt and Mike. The next question is, can the BMP enrollment be linked to SQL databases for loading lots of people or uses?
Okay, so it's sort of along the same lines, but yeah, so I think what the question really gets at is maybe you have, all the surveyors or the people that are going to be involved with data collection, storage in a SQL database, as well as uses, maybe other entries there. So yeah, you can actually use that. So all of this, of course, works with whatever backend databases that you're leveraging, including SQL. And so you can actually leverage that information to populate, your drop downs and other, values that you'd want to enter automatically into there. Matt, do you have anything to add there?
Just from a UI perspective, that is a good way to go about doing it. But sometimes when you have thousands of users that you want to pick from, the person in the field is scrolling and scrolling and scrolling and scrolling. And the way the scroller works is either in Android or iOS. You just get the operating system's default scrolling. And so you definitely can do that, but I would caution against, from a UI perspective, is that if you don't, if you have a lot of users, be cognizant of how much your field workers are going to have to move their finger on that tablet to make sure it's easy enough for them to get the right person and not select the wrong one. But yeah, aside from that, you definitely can do that.
Okay, and next question. Are these CAPs and apps something that you will offer? If so, how will you communicate?
So what we showed you today are actually solutions that are deployed already on our solutions site, solutions.arcgis.com. So they're included with the ArcGIS platform. So basically, if you've invested really in anything with ArcGIS, any kind of licensing, or you have named users with ArcGIS Online, whatever the case is, you have the ability to leverage the solutions. So everything we showed you today, both CAPs and BMPs, and the demonstrations that Matt gave are readily available now.
Okay, great. And does your dashboard for BMPs only use drop-down menus for portraying workflow?
No, so the dashboard, I guess in its default state, yes, but you can configure that dashboard however way you see fit. Our UI testers and stuff, we went through and we try to vet a lot of this and try to pick the ones that look most aesthetically pleasing to us and the people we test them with. But you can change it to drop downs. You can have ones where you just kind of flip back and forth. You can have a bunch of columns. You can configure that the way you see fit. It all use the same data on the back end. It just is using the attribute table. And so, no, that's all configurable depending on how you see fit. This was just the default configuration that I showed.
Yeah, and then let me just add something to that, and maybe we didn't explain it well enough. The solutions are meant to get you most of the way there. We don't see this as an end all or anything like that. That's why I kept saying about, you can configure them to meet your own needs and things like that. So the configurations that you do see within them, like Matt was just describing with the operations dashboard, those are, sort of the ways, in that case, of filtering and things that we heard, pretty loud and clear from the various states and whatnot that we worked with. And so that's like our starting point. But being able to configure and add additional filters, filter in a different way, look at different, operational views or different infographics, within the dashboards, that's certainly possible and certainly configurable on top of that default configuration, that we give you. So hopefully that makes sense.
Okay, next question is which web app builder template was used to create the invasive pest web application?
I believe it was a situational awareness one, but I'm not 100% sure. That's something that I can definitely talk to our team about and get back to you on, though.
Yeah, actually, I can add a little bit to that. That is right. So we have a situational awareness widget in essence as part of the web app builder offerings, and actually that situational awareness widget is available in quite a wide variety of the solutions that we do have. So emergency management comes to mind, for example, and some of the workflows there. Obviously, situational awareness is very important. And so it's just reconfigured, for the particulars of the various workflows, So in this case, it's situational awareness relative to an invasive pest being detected.
Okay, great. And next question is GPS integrated into the application? And this was asked during the first demonstration.
It sure is. When you do a Survey 123 survey, you're going to use a tablet or a phone out in the field that will have a GPS component in it. And so you can use the default GPS. If you're concerned really about the accuracy of what you're doing, you can also Bluetooth to an external GPS receiver. Then you can get survey grade location information from that. That's both supported. Again, it's determined when you just use a device. You have to be a little bit cognizant of the error bars. If you're collecting under foliage or something like that, you can get yourself into plus or minus 30 feet pretty easily. So yeah, it just uses the device as GPS. If that's a problem, you can use an external GPS to really get high fidelity readings, or you can average using the GPS on the device over multiple and then kind of get a better view that way. But yep, it uses GPS natively. That's the core functionality of the Survey 123 product that was used as the backbone to build these surveys. So hope that helps.
Okay, great. And can invasive pest monitoring result in downloadable databases that can be used for other apps and analysis outside of your workflow?
So databases, not quite, but layers of data that you can then use, yes. And so everything will get zipped together in what's called a feature layer. Or depending on how you have it set up, if you're running this on your own server, you could point it to a database or something that way. But if you're using ArcGIS Online, you'll get a feature layer that you can then either download and put into desktop GIS, or if you're using ArcGIS Pro, you can just simply open up that layer in Pro and then do your normal GIS analysis on that. And so, yeah, it's fully supported. Depending on how your backend is set up, it may or may not be in a true traditional database format, but the capabilities are definitely there to do that.
Yeah, and just to add to that a little bit, we do see a lot of agencies, customers, and whatnot leveraging ArcGIS Online, like Matt was talking about, for this data collection and everything. And then it is possible, if you take it kind of to the next level, to basically script a way to pull that data down and add it to your own on-premise databases. So that's something I have firsthand experience with, actually, with a lot of similar workflows. But inherently they're leveraging services, but there are ways to extract that information and pull it into other databases as needed.
Okay, and next question. How do ArcGIS solutions also facilitate linkages to other models and analysis done by others, such as integrated hydrologic modeling?
So that one gets to be a little bit tricky. Depending on how those models are outputted, if they're outputted in a format that the rest of the ArcGIS products can use, then you can easily incorporate what you have through these solutions with those model output. This is, like I said, all captured in a feature layer, and sometimes models will output in a format that something like ArcMap or ArcGIS Pro simply can't use, or only ArcMap can read and ArcGIS Pro rarely can't use. And so that really depends on what the output of your hydrologic modeling are, but if you can use it in other aspects of ArcGIS software suite, it will play with this, and you can use that easily in collaboration with each other. And so, like I said, if you have more questions about that, I'm happy to take that offline. I have actually quite a bit of knowledge about hydrologic modeling and things like that, and so I can definitely give you a hand with that. But the short answer is, if it works in desktop GIS, that is an ArcMap or ArcGIS Pro, then it will be very easy to use this data in tandem with that.
Thanks, Matt. And another question, do patterns of use also include regulatory reporting? How do you get around confidential information of specific farmers and land use?
So I'll start with the first part of that question. So yeah, patterns of use, going back to the common patterns of use of the platform, definitely include reporting, especially regulatory reporting. That's part of that sharing and collaboration, kind of pattern. And as Matt talked about, we didn't really get a chance to actually demonstrate it because, like you said, it's not a very compelling demo. But many of our solutions, including CAPS, include that regulatory reporting component. And so, as he described, the information as it's pulled down, there's a set of tasks in Pro that basically take that information and transform it into the exact format that's needed by USDA through the NAPAS database in this case. Many of the other solutions, including solutions that are upcoming, also include regulatory reporting, and that's something that often ups the priority of the solutions actually that we do work on, because oftentimes, like with CAPS, there are regulatory reporting requirements, and that's a key part of the workflow, and it's also something that we find that's not always done very frequently. So coming back and remembering what you did a year ago to report again is often very challenging for people. So being able to sort of templatize that and put it into a task like we did with the CAPS-oriented solutions is often very beneficial, to the workflow and to folks who actually have to do that reporting. Okay.
And then the second half of that question is, by default, the information is going to be only viewable to the person who published the survey. It's up to you to change from that who has access to what information. And so When I said, this dashboard shows all information and it's geared towards the public, the person who published that survey or the administrator of your portal, an ArcGIS Online or portal for ArcGIS, can go through and can limit certain subsets of data, including attributes. So you could just take that name table or whatever other information you have and just simply say that no one can see that. Only certain admins within my organization can see that information. But you can control the granularity of what data gets out and who can see what through permissions. And it's a good way to limit. And so in terms of where that data actually lives, if it's living in ArcGIS Online, it's living in an Esri cloud, it's secured. If it's living on Portal for ArcGIS, it'll be living on your own internal server behind your firewall. And so it's secure. Like I said, it's up to the person who published the survey to then dictate how much they want to share, if at all. We have some users that simply just have one inspector that's going out, and they have one person back in the office that looks at the data, and that's it. So you can control how big of a circle is brought in and who can see what data.
Great, thanks, Matt and Mike. And one last question we had come in. How do you do the configuration? Where is that demonstrated? And this was, I believe, a follow-up to the question about can the location be configured to automatically populate owner address data from tax parcel data?
So the configuration can be covered in several ways. We have self-taught training that works. Mike and I would be happy to schedule a call with you, and I can actually walk you through that configuration process and how it works. There's some YouTube videos that are on our Esri channel that also walk through a little bit of that. But those are kind of the three main ways we kind of get the information out. But we're happy to help if you have specific configuration questions, or if you have a configuration that you're not happy with and you want to see improved. We're equally happy to take that feedback and bring it back to the development team for ideas for future updates. So yeah, if it's something that's really specific, we're happy to help. We have our emails right here. Otherwise, you can poke around on GeoNet or on our YouTube channel, and they should have some information. Or if you really want to go the full way, we have either self-taught learning or instructor training that will walk you through that process.
I will add one thing, though, specific to the solutions themselves. There's various configuration that you can do as you deploy the solutions as well. So what you saw and what Matt demonstrated today with both sets of solutions were the solutions out of the box. And as he mentioned, there's a deployment tool within ArcGIS Pro that allows you to just deploy these right out to your portal or to ArcGIS Online. At the same time, when you do that, you can actually do some configurations right then. So let's say, for example, you have additional fields of information that you want to collect, additional attribute fields. You can actually add those. You get everything deployed, and then you can configure through that same tool. You could add those fields. You can load your own data as well. So there's various configurations, solution-specific configurations that you can do right through that Pro deployment tool. So if your question was more geared towards, all right, I see the CAPS or the BMP solutions and I just want to tweak it a bit, you can actually do that right through that Pro Solutions deployment tool. And that tool is available. I forget if Matt mentioned it, but it is available right on the solution site. And you can download it and install it, and it's just an add-in right to ArcGIS Pro.
Well, thank you, Matt and Mike, and thank you all for joining us today, and have a great rest of your day.